Where the hell is Curl Curl? Pedro Foiling Sailor says he's in Curl Curler. Down, not Curler, Curl Curl. Down in Oz in Australia, training to win. That's John Emmett. He is in Portugal. Ed Worley, Alistair Murray, also in Australia, in Melbourne. Gordon Smith in Denmark. Christopher Gillingham in Leamington with his wife Jane in England on the south coast. Graham Sweeney up in Shetland in Scotland. Pedro Foiling Sailor just down the road from Woy Woy as we get this one off the bloody dock. Welcome. Yeah, welcome to show number 570. Did I, John, in the show notes have ROM or something instead of ROU? Apologies. Warren Schasser in Brisbane. Got a lot of Aussies. Aussie on here today. Julia's she's doing better. We'll give you a report on her in a moment. Welcome, everybody. I had a big show last night over at Golden Gate Yacht Club. It was a lot of fun. A group that meets twice a year, and I do their AV for them and do a bit of a show. And if I am a little croakier than usual, we had a bit of a night last night. Some of you have been proud of me. We carried on, had good fun. Welcome everybody. Let's get into the pre-start. I've got a new slide. Can anyone guess this race committee? Anybody recognize that race committee boat? It's in Annapolis. It's not Annapolis Yacht Club. Bloody Doc, Jonathan Frank, saying, no, we're not talking about game fishing. This is our pre-start photo from the Severn Sailing Association, one of the great small boat clubs in this country, the club of the late, great Dr. Stuart Walker in Annapolis, Maryland, for the pre-start photo. Julia, the update on Julia is that she is still in the convalescent home. I spoke with her this morning again at some length. Probably go see her this afternoon or for sure tomorrow. She's watching. She always does. She misses us and you all, the Fozy especially, terribly. She's delayed. She is getting out of there. She's in good spirits. She's delayed a couple days for some logistical reasons, but she is going to get out of there and get back here to the Commodore's suite upstairs here at the Peach Street Yacht Club, hopefully sooner than later. So no Julia today, but apropos the suggestions of several of you, I've added a scarf now, a gold scarf, because that's the motif here in Studio B. It's black, everything, all the gear is black, but the gold trim on the photos and so on, those of you who've been in here. So a gold scarf. Wishing lots of love to Julia. Thank you very much, John Emmett. And Alistair Murray and David James, who crossed the bay, is missing Julia. Free Julia, J. Frederick Bland says. Well, Blake Middleton says he's going to come break her out of there, but she is going to get home. In this photo we have of her, she's got a nice gold necklace. She loves gold. So hence the gold scarf on her chair over there with her headset. We'll get her back here. Do you know what today is? Did any of you Google? It is a special day, and I got some criticism for the last couple of shows having not talked about or enough about. I don't think we talked about this being an alcohol show, a drinking show with a sailing habit. We didn't talk enough about it. So today I think it's quite appropriate that we celebrate what day? This is your clue. A bagpipe would be a better substitute. Mark Twain's birthday. Is it Gordon Smith? Gordon Smith is on. From Denmark. Hi, Gordon. No. And there's some gold there in that shot. Anybody else have an idea what it is? Here's another old-fashioned day, Jonathan Frank. Well, no, because that's not an old-fashioned, not Manhattan's. It's not a Manhattan day. The 2nd of December, not Gold Spiral Spike Drinking Day. Bill Wingrove down in Tampa, Florida, weights and measures. No. It is Bartender Appreciation Day. And we won't dedicate this to Jody Shields, but to all of you who do like to have a cocktail from time to time. Not the Rob Roy Day, James Bland, Jay Frederick. It's Bartender Appreciation Day. And apparently this was started some years ago. There are a couple of these, as you can imagine, but apparently it's this time of year because it was in early December that Prohibition back in the, what was that, in the 20s or the 30s when that ended. It ended in early December, just before the holidays. In the spirit of the man himself, we'll let the rum do the talking. Apparently there's a rum, I've never heard of it, called Sailor Jerry. Has any of you heard of Sailor Jerry spiced rum? Let the rum do the talking. I'd never heard of it. They've got all sorts of rum cocktails, as you can imagine. This is, on the left, is the Sailor Jerry hot chocolate. It sounds good. I might have to have one myself this afternoon, or when Julia gets back here, maybe we'll celebrate with a Sailor Jerry hot chocolate. The ingredients are 1 part spiced rum, 1 part butterscotch schnapps, 1.5 parts almond milk, 3 parts dark hot chocolate, a dash of sea salt. So, that's good. That sounds good. Topped with whipped cream and some sprinkles, I guess, of cinnamon. What do I know? The original Sailor Jerry Spiced Navy Rum, this is one of their ads. After collecting old recipes and late nights of taste testing, we developed Sailor Jerry. I've never heard of this. Sailor Jerry Spiced Rum, a 92 proof blend of Virgin Island, of course, rum with spices, caramel, and other natural flavors. Like a true Sailor rum, it's strong but goes down smooth. We think you'll like it. Julia, get your finger ready for this last sexist remark, sexist sentence. There's some alliteration. If you don't like it, you can go buy a girly rum. A girly rum. Every girl I know likes drinking rum as well as anything else if she likes to drink. Girly rum. Is a Mount Gay? Is that a girly rum? Who knows? Well, back to the story here. A girly rum. That's all about it. Now, they also produce T-shirts, the original Sailor Jerry Spiced Rum, because no good story ever started with someone eating a salad. And I had to ask, not even a salad with croutons. I couldn't let that go. And it's raining croutons here in Studio B, at least in the picture in the PIP, the picture-in-picture slides for our Appreciation Day for bartenders. I mean, it is one of the more important. You have to have a good travel agent, or maybe not these days, but you used to, a good lawyer, a good, tell me what, doctor, plumber, and you have a good bartender, right? An update on the Big Island news out in Hawaii.
The view from the ground of Fissure 3 erupting on Mauna Loa volcano's northeast rift zone. Scientists are collecting samples in this area, which will be analyzed to learn about the lava that is flowing to the north, down the side of the giant Hawaii Island volcano. A new map published Thursday evening by the U.S. Geological Survey Hawaiian Volcano Observatory shows the progress the lava flows have made. The flow front is just over 3 miles or 5 kilometers from the Daniel K. Inouye Highway, also known as Saddle Road. The lava advance slowed down ever since it reached flat ground, and if it maintains its current speed, scientists think it could be a week before it reaches the highway. The map also shows the lava flows from Fissure 4 that have been moving toward the northeast.
Okay, so you get the idea. Several of you asked about it. We talked about it on the show the other day. And of course, one of the issues I know Julia has always asserted, we all have, that we worry about the what's going on with the climate and with carbon. It doesn't stop what's her name, Markle, from flying around in private planes and at the same time criticize anybody whose carbon footprint is too big. But how much carbon goes in the atmosphere from volcanoes, and apparently not since, thousands of years ago when that huge volcano in Indonesia erupted and caused a year-round winter for a dozen or more years. But according to Deutsche Welle, humanity emits 60 times more carbon dioxide than volcanoes. Several of you asked, and I just go down to the last paragraph. We have 1,500 active volcanoes on Earth, plus around 40,000 to 50,000 inactive volcanoes that emit gases. But they produce tiny amounts of greenhouse gases compared to what humans produce, said this guy, Walter, who's was identified earlier in the article. I don't know who he is, somebody from the Carbon Dioxide Information Analysis Center, whoever that is. Okay, so that's the latest on that. We cannot go through the show without talking about soccer, about football, and the FIFA Gold Cup. It's sad that the Germans, having lived in Germany and being part German, I'm sad that the Germans got knocked out. I always cheer for them. But they did, as you probably all know. This was a classic photo that went viral, I think, after that match. And several of you had comments, including Gordon Smith. I'm not going to put it on, but, a lot of different comments. So I ask you, as we get into the round now of 16, still a couple matches. There was one this morning. You probably know the results. I haven't had time to check. But the Netherlands and the USA play tomorrow in this round of 16. Argentina and Australia. That's going to be fun. Japan and Croatia. And Korea, we're not sure who they're. Maybe we are by now. Maybe some of you know. And the others down there in the lower bracket. But these matches that were this morning, our time, Korea and Portugal and Ghana and Uruguay. Uruguay was up 2-0, so presumably they won that. Does anyone know who won the Korea-Portugal match? And then starting in just about 45 minutes from now, Cameroon and Brazil, Serbia and Switzerland to fill out, what is that, groups G and H or H and whatever they are. So we shall see. And then I ask all of you, because there's a lot of chit and chat and DMs to me and so on about this. Andrew Pindars, thank you, is saying that Korea won 2-1. Korea beat Portugal. Alistair Murray is confirming. So Korea is through, and presumably, what was the other one that was, somebody was up 2-0, so presumably that one is over as well. Ghana and Uruguay are both out. Andrew Pindars confirming. Okay. Thank you, sir, for that. So I'm asking all of you, put in the comments, if you would, please, which team are you betting on to win the whole enchilada? And if you put it in the comments, we'll go watch and see. I got, after backing Ohio State over Michigan last weekend, I just, I'm going to eat humble pie. Many of you might as well. Gordon Smith is saying Brazil. I don't know what the odds are, Stingray, on the USA and Netherlands. Netherlands, soccer is a football power. The USA gets by the Netherlands, I'll be surprised. I'm not going to make a bet on that one. But Jeff Ogle saying Spain. We're going to keep these, and we'll write these down. And if one of you gets this right, any of you who gets this right, we'll send you a Sailing Illustrated hat or something. Alistair Murray is backing the Aussies, Australia, to win the whole enchilada easily. Alistair, maybe if it were rugby, or it were cricket or sailing even, Alistair, but you think they're going to win football, soccer? David James is backing England. That's interesting. Anybody else have a view before we move ahead? Yeah, Fishback agrees with David James. Thomas saying the Brits. Jonathan Frank thinks the Netherlands. Well, we'll see how they do against the U.S. Okay, who cares? Let's go sailing, Graham Sweeney. Anybody else? Who cares? Well, we care because it affects all of us. We all follow it to some degree. USA for the win. J. Frederick Bland down in Austin, Texas is saying. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if any of you will keep watching and see if any of you is going to eat humble pie at some point like I did after the Michigan-Ohio State game. The Dutch have had a mediocre tournament so far with significant criticism in their press, Andrew is saying. Who's the guy? Somebody, is it a Cameroon striker who scored 3 goals, a goal in each of their matches? David James, there are only 2 sorts of people I can't stand: those who are intolerant of other cultures and the Dutch. That's an old joke that can apply to a lot of different cultures. Humble pie, or as Gordon Smith says, Humble Pizzeria, which is apparently in a town called Humble in Denmark, and he's going to take me there if it's not too far away next time I'm in Denmark near Gordon Smith and his family. We try to do that. Today's show brought to you by our patrons who support us on Patreon. Please join patreon.com. It's a giving season. It's the holiday season. Patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated, and we appreciate very much your support. That gets us to the starting line. Gotta get the horn up here. Can't have a start without the starting horn. And, I think everybody's one of our favorite segments, if not our favorite segment of each show. We like to start with it. Coach's Corner with super coach, Olympic coach John Emmett, who filmed this early this morning before leaving England. And he's not quite an international man of mystery, but he is fleet of foot. He's moving around a lot. Here's his report.
Hi Tom, Julia and all the Fozy. You might be able to tell from my blurred background, I'm back at Imberhorn Farmhouse, literally a flying visit. Got the lapel mic on, so hopefully the sound quality is good, but you can probably hear aeroplanes in the background because I am that close to London Gatwick, which is where I'll shortly be heading off. I'm going to finish the health and fitness chat now, just to give some really simple ideas. One of the key ones is we probably all know inherently that fast food is not good food. And this is also related to price. So typically, unfortunately, food that is cheap is tending to be poor quality because healthy food can be more expensive and usually is. I mean, it's not that binary, but I think really healthy food we're always going to be paying a bit more for. And in terms of making an investment, it's absolutely worth investing with your health. So I think we can move on from that topic now. We also briefly covered COVID, which is very much in my mind, flying at the moment. I said the situation in China is very unfortunate, and for more info, I right up there with Tom, follow John Campbell, he's really good, and he did some pieces recently about the origin of COVID, which I think is probably fairly logical, sort of fairly common sense if you think where it may have come from. And often the most logical explanation is the actual one, and I guess it's something that we haven't really talked about a lot, so it is worth checking that out, because it is something we will probably all look back in 10, 20 years, or possibly when we have the next pandemic. So I'm going to get a wriggle on now. Really look after yourself. Mental health is also very important. Sadly, there's a lot of scams going around now in this difficult time. So think and stay alert, and hopefully I'll catch you all on the show this time. The time difference is a bit more friendly.
John Emmett, thank you very much. And he's talking about healthy food, and I see comments coming on. Last night, this black tie dinner over at Golden Gate Yacht Club, a bunch of basically old farts that get together a couple times a year and celebrate San Francisco culture and society. Very mixed, very diverse group too. A few more younger guys, but that was a good meal. And it was, steak and potatoes, the usual thing. You serve a bunch of old guys in tuxedos. But the first thing they brought out after everybody sat down, they had a salad. And there were poo-poos, of course, but there was a good salad. And then they brought around French fries. And these were good French fries. I don't eat junk food, at least not much. But bloody hell, I love French fries. I don't know who invented French fries, but I sure love them. Yeah, John, you think that's a Gillette moment? Wait till you see a little more Occam's razor. Hello, Baton Rouge. Thanks, John. Yep, Gordon Smith, everybody saying thank you for yet another report. And he said that concludes his health and fitness series, but I hope not, and I rather doubt it, because we appreciate getting his advice. And as you heard him, I text with him most mornings on show mornings, and we texted back and forth a little bit today, but he's without saying it in so few words, this Dr. John Campbell and many others are now quite convinced that this thing came out of the Wuhan lab, the virology lab over there, and it was a leak. And I can't believe they engineered this thing on purpose. I don't believe any of those conspiracy theories, at least not yet, but bloody hell. And I also, by the way, apropos COVID, I spoke with Steve Atkins this morning, Commodore. I don't know if you're watching, but it was accidental because one of us had butt dialed each other. So we called and said, "Hey, are you calling me?" And Steve, remember, was the guy who was the first person among the Fozy, the first person I knew who'd contracted COVID back in maybe, what was it, the early 2020, I think, February, March 2020, maybe April. And he got this was before vaccines, and he's my age, no real health problems, but he got it bad and ended up at Yale New Haven Hospital, one of the great medical center hospitals, university teaching hospitals and so on in this country, at least. And went on a ventilator before he was having terrible time breathing. And you think about how far we've come, really, because these days, if you get it, you're probably not going to get it bad. I mean, when I got it a couple of weeks ago, it was barely, as I said, it was, I've had worse colds. I've had worse hangovers. Yeah, and had it, felt a little jaded for a couple of weeks, but no big deal. And that, of course, is having had, I guess, the vaccines. The other thing, if you do get it, you can go get Paxlovid or one of these other antivirals in the first, 5 days and kill it off. We got to get McIrvin back on here and update us. But John, whose wife, of course, is Chinese, he follows this very carefully. She is in Shanghai. I believe Shanghai. She's in China, though, and getting in and out is really tough. I hope she gets back for the holidays. I think they were supposed to meet in Bali when John was on vacation, but okay. Thank you, John, for that. And just apropos, we'll continue with the John Emmett segment here. Do you know where that is? Do you recognize that harbor? Because that's where John is. He flew there this morning. Right after that report, he was at his mom's place at the farm near, what's the airport? Not Heathrow, the other airport. I was going to say LaGuardia, but that's obviously not right either. So he then took off, and Neil's got it. Neil Collingridge has got it. It's Vila Moura in Portugal, in the Bay of Cadiz. Interesting that that big bay is named after Cadiz, which of course is a Spanish city. Gatwick, thank you, J. Frederick Bland. And that's where Monica Diaz is. It's down there in the area, often in Cadiz. If for those of you who are geographically challenged, that red pin is on Vila Moura in Portugal. And you can see that is a beautiful part of the world. The Algarve and southern Portugal. There's a lot of sailing, a lot of racing, a lot of breeze, wonderful people. It's just a fantastic spot. And I've sailed and judged in, Formula One. If you go around the corner, you see where it says Jerez de la Frontera, over here, which is in Spain. There used to be a Formula One race there back in the day. It's a beautiful part of the world. Beware of the orcas. Jerez for sherry. Our cosmopolitan J. Frederick Bland is telling us. Now, that's John when he got to Vila Moura after flying, and they went straight to the gym. In the background there on the left is his mentee from Romania, ROU, not ROM. I apologize, John, and give her my apologies as well. And you can see he's got a bit of a growth on there, so I don't know what your drinking game is these days, all of you who are watching. But food was great, though. Another drink. Cheers. I guess I don't know. You all have the drinking game going on. I don't know what the drinking game is, and it changes from time to time. Spent a week there with 350 Ilkas, Neil Collingridge is saying, crammed into zero space this summer. My photo from that's that photo. I'll go back to that photo. That is John's photo he took from the plane on final approach, I guess. So I did a little bit of work on it, just color balanced it, but a great photo indeed. There in Vila Moura. What other comments are there? I guess nothing of significance. You can bet Ricky Gervais. So do they have I don't know what's going on here. Yet a couple miles north of some of the most expensive real estate, Yarvahe is saying. Okay, I'm not going to, I'm slow as the Pittsburgh of the UK and not in a good day. Okay. So Emmett's in the gym and with his mentee, already training in what I've nicknamed the Gillette Gym. And there she is, a close-up. This is Ebru Bolat. And she is a fit young lady and a hell of a good sailor. She's done very well. And we've talked about her a lot tangentially here with John because he's always off in this cycle coaching her. So I thought we should do a little video segment on her. And I found this online this morning and John said, by all means, run it. So have a look. Ebru Bolat.
Salut, sunt Evru Bolat, reprezentanta României a lotului olimpic la yachting și în drum de calificare spre Jocurile Olimpice din 2024 de la Paris. Yachtingul folosește propulsia proprie prin forța vântului. În același timp avem de gestionat și curenții de aer, de apă, marea și alte componente. Chiar dacă e cunoscut ca un sport recreațional, e și un sport de performanță și ai nevoie de o condiție fizică destul de bună. Una generală foarte bună, dar și specifică pentru sport. În general, eu mă antrenez 6 zile pe săptămână, 2-3 antrenamente pe zi. Îmi gestionez antrenamentele într-un mod în care, atunci când nu se poate ieși pe apă, să mă focusez pe cele de anduranță și forță. Cursele noastre sunt destul de lungi, sunt 50 de minute și dacă avem 2-3 curse pe zi, ajungi să depui destul de mult efort. Avem 5-6 zile de concurs, adică o săptămână întreagă te lupți acolo să încerci să dai cel mai bun rezultat. Cu o pregătire fizică bine pusă la punct, focusul meu în timpul competiției e mult mai mult pe strategia mea de concurs, cum vreau să abordez cursa, pe controlarea flotei. Avem multe situații de presiune, situații cu alte bărci, coliziuni și e important să rămâi calm și să te poți focusa pe ce ai tu de făcut. Când eram mică, mi s-a spus că sunt foarte talentată și poate că am prins mai repede decât alți copii, dar până la urmă rezultatul de campioană europeană și de vicecampioană mondială atunci când eram la junior, mi l-am muncit, adică n-au fost întâmplătoare. Succesul este rezultatul multelor eșecuri, iar eu am avut suficiente din care am învățat și mă bucur că le-am avut pentru că m-au împins și m-au remotivat să lupt mai departe și să-mi ating obiectivele. Iar acum obiectivul meu este să ajung la Olimpiadă. Ar fi o premieră pentru mine și pentru România, n-am mai avut nicio fată vreodată calificată. Nu am niciun motiv să zic că nu pot. Nu contează dacă alți sportivi au susținere mai mare sau o tradiție mai bogată în sport. Ei tot oameni sunt, tot două mâini, două picioare au. Deci dacă ei pot, definitiv pot și eu. Iar la final, recompensa, cel puțin pentru mine, merită. Adică e un sentiment minunat să câștigi o medalie de aur și să-ți asculți imnul. Este cea mai mare mândrie și cel mai frumos sentiment pe care îl poate resimți un atlet. Asta e și visul meu și eu, de asemenea, vreau să fiu mândră de mine și să arăt că România este chiar foarte bună și la yachting.
Our silly sport produces wonderful people, and it's a wonderful sport. What a fabulous video. And obviously, I don't know her, I've never met her, never talked with her, but John, while that was running, said he was going to produce a video sometime, I guess sometime before the end of the year with her, and maybe do it in English, but there were subtitles if you weren't watching. Great stuff, terrific stuff. Bravo Zulu to her and to John. And another nice segment from John Emmett Sailing. Get to the front of the fleet. We appreciate it very, very much. Us back and forth. This is a nice, yeah, Gordon, I agree. Gordon Smith saying this is that video we just saw is a nice explainer video for non-sailors. I like it. And not only that, but I think inspirational for non-sailors and particularly for kids who see that. And, you know, here's a gal from Romania. You don't think of Romania as a sailing power, yet somehow, some way, with coaches like John and probably parents and others who've been a good influence, she's gotten to the top of the heap pretty quickly. And we'll see how she does in the Olympics. And she used an expression called vice champion. I've never heard that, never read that. I like it. What do we, runner-up? Runner-up is, I don't know. I like vice champion. I wonder if we ought to start popularizing that, using that expression, vice champion. Neil Collingridge, who has a daughter who races in the ILCA 6, I believe, and is a big buddy of John's. They hang out together a lot at some of these events, and I think Neil does a little coaching of his daughter, and he says, apropos, ever, that she is the nicest person. And she certainly sounds and looks it. Mark Husted, who is an Aussie living in Sweden and Göteborg, just jumped in. He says, hi, guys. Welcome. Mark Husted, good to see you on your Friday night, late Friday night over there in Sweden. They're back and forth here now talking about bangers and mash in the UK. When is Julia back? Mark, we don't know. We hope she's back this weekend. She's working on getting arranged. She's got to have some help upstairs when she gets out. She can't walk on her foot. It's still broken. She had a CAT scan and an x-ray and yada, yada, but her spirits are good. She's optimistic. She misses all of us, all of you terribly, and she wants to get over there in her chair ASAP. Hopefully she's here Tuesday. One can only hope. What other comments here? John Emmett is saying about, I guess this is Daisy, must be the daughter of Neil Collingridge. So Daisy Collingridge, he is saying, is a double UK national champion and is bringing out some stuff for Ebru and I. So she must be going down to Villamora as well. I joked with John this morning, so you're on a perpetual summer program. I mean, Villamora, that whole area is just beautiful. I could easily retire there. If we had a good internet connection, we could do the show from there. Everyone gets a star. Joe, what does that mean? And John told me he's going back to the UK. I asked him if he was staying through the holidays because presumably Lily, his wife, is not going to get out of China, although they're starting to ease some of the lockdowns I read and see and hear, if you believe the press, because of the protests. Did I tell you that when I was coming back from the convalescent home, did I tell you on Tuesday, there was the Chinese consulate is just around the corner from the center city where Julie is in the convalescent home. And there was a huge protest. I'm not talking about 100 people or a couple hundred people. There must have been upwards to 1,000 people outside the Chinese consulate, all holding up the white sheets of paper on, I don't know what day it was, earlier this week when I was coming back from visiting Julia. Okay, this day in history is the next segment. What happened? And it's tangentially related to sailing only because of the town that it took place in. But the town, I don't know how many of you know it, it is a famously cool sailing town, but it's also in some ways, in the state within which the town is located, in some ways is the kind of the heart of religious freedom in this country, at least. What happened there on the 2nd of December, 1763? And here is your first clue. Any of you recognize that building? Anybody recognize that building? Get it a little closer for you. You might be able to read the sign. Witch trial, Stingray. No, that was up in Boston. Witch burning. No. This is religious freedom. The yacht club in Slow. What are you guys on the slow? You guys all must be on the piss already. It's only 13:30 here in San Francisco. Does this help? The inside of that building? That is in Newport, Rhode Island. That is the Truro Synagogue. And, you know, after the Pilgrims and so on came over from the UK and they got, it looks like a courthouse. It is in some ways, Graham Sweeney. And got, you know, because of supposedly religious persecution, they came over to the UK. And then, of course, they promptly started persecuting everybody who wasn't following their religion up in the Boston area. So breakaway groups came down to Rhode Island and started in Rhode Island their own little religious sects and SEC, not sex, as somebody with dirty minds will think. Julie's got her finger going. SECTS. And in Newport, Rhode Island, what is today, it was among the first built, but it is the oldest synagogue building still standing in the U.S., the only surviving synagogue in the U.S. dating to the colonial era, and the oldest surviving Jewish synagogue building in North America. 1946, it was declared a National Historic Site. The oldest Greek Orthodox church is also in Newport, Rhode Island, and a lot of Catholicism in that corner of the country, and Rhode Island in particular, before it was a bigger deal throughout the country. So congratulations to Newport, Rhode Island. If you go there to go sailing or whatever, it's a cool building to visit. You can visit that one, and I commend it to you. What is Pindar's? I'm getting private DMs here. There must be some big joking going on. Theology Illustrated, Jonathan Frank. No! Now, one more interesting point. You've heard this quote before, at least those of us in the States have. The synagogue wrote to Washington, George Washington, after he became president and after he declined to be king. And he wrote back to the synagogue, and they have this letter, and they read it each year. And the excerpt that we all know, the government of the United States gives to bigotry no sanction, to persecution no assistance. May the children of the stock of Abraham who dwell in this land continue to merit and enjoy the goodwill of the other inhabitants, while everyone shall sit in safety under his own vine and fig tree, and there shall be none to make him afraid. May the Father of all mercy scatter light and not darkness in our paths, and make us all in our several vocations useful here, and in his own due time and way, everlastingly happy. The letter from George Washington to that Hebrew congregation in Newport, Rhode Island, back in 1790-ish, I think it was. And we're in the holiday season now. It's December. I got some decorations there on some of the slides. How did you get from Washington to Trump, Yarvai? I just saw. We don't like to talk politics on this show too much unless it's affecting the sport. But, I mean, politics does affect all of us. James Frederick Bland saying amen to that letter from Washington. Absolutely. But it's the holiday spirit. And I saw this morning on the news that something like 75 or 80% of the people in this country want neither Biden nor Trump to run. And Julie and I have this discussion. I know some of you still are big Trump supporters, but I just think it's time for new, fresh blood. I hope neither of them runs. Or if they do, they get primaried and we get new, fresh, young blood. Whether it's the governor of Colorado, who's a Democrat, or the governor of Florida, who's a Republican, and on and on and on. It's time for new blood, in my never so humble opinion. And I think most Americans agree with that. Probably most of you who've been suffering through Trump and Biden abroad agree as well. There is another picture of that building in Newport, Rhode Island. Beautiful, and beautiful also in the history and tradition. On this day in history, it was dedicated in Newport, the 2nd of December, 1763, 100 years before the first America's Cup. Okay, happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to the holiday season, and let's go do some Bravo Zulu. And this is a bit of a departure, too, and it's not that Rolex is a sponsor or anything of this show, but what a fabulous sponsor and supporter partner they are for our sport. So when I get the chance, I like to run Rolex videos, as you can tell, and we'll do a watch party. A lot of you came back and said we should do the watch party on the 26th, on Boxing Day, our Christmas night, the 25th here. And we'll do a watch party to watch the start of the Rolex Sydney 2 Hobart yacht race. And it's a yacht race. It's a yacht race. The Aussies are proper. But Bravo Zulu to Rolex and to the Royal Malta Yacht Club. They put out now another video. This one, 20-some, I'm not going to play the whole thing, 20-some minutes long, on the Middle Sea Race, the Rolex Middle Sea Race. And it's a fabulous video. I'm going to play the first couple minutes of it, and then the last 3 minutes of it.
The 606-mile Rolex Middle Sea Race is considered unique in offshore sailing. Rather than a straight course from A to B, it's an anti-clockwise circuit, starting in Valletta, rounding Sicily before returning to Malta's capital. A 360-degree test that can encompass everything the sport can throw at a sailor. In this Middle Sea merry-go-round, the spotlight is on navigators and tacticians to complete the circle.
It's extremely challenging. I really love all the different 600 miles race. The Fastnet, the Antigua 600, the Hobart, they're all fantastic races. But this one has something special because it's super technique, super complex, and you really need to be at the top of all your skills in this race.
Just a huge variety of conditions. Great opportunities for boats of all sizes to do well, and some absolutely spectacular scenery along the way.
The me, it's a bit of a mythical race in that it goes through the Messina Straits, Stromboli, the islands over there, around Sicily. So there are lots of corners, lots of landmarks that I enjoy going around.
I commend it to you, and I'm not, as I said, I don't want to run the whole thing, but the interviews, the cinema, the videography just is fabulous. Do go have a look at it. It's you just Google Rolex
So it's just a very
Middle Sea race,
cool race to do.
and I've subscribed to the Rolex channel, and they do not just sailing videos on that YouTube channel, but a lot of other stuff, sports and so on that they're involved with, and product videos. But I mean, they just do a fantastic job. I think IMG produces these for them, and they're wonderful. Okay, so that's the first 3 minutes of that video. It's, as I said, 25 minutes long. Here is the last 3 minutes or so, celebrating ultimately the winners who Andrew McIrvin says this guy who is the skipper, he's French, he's got a German name, but says he's just a terrific guy. I'd love to get him on the show sometime. Have a look.
With a lack of wind cancelling out the chances of victory for the smaller boats still out at sea, French yacht Teasing Machine is declared overall winner of the race.
It was a difficult race due to the very light winds, but the emotion is fantastic. It's such a great race. The Rolex Minutes race is very technical, probably the most technical race of the 600 miles, more technical than the Fastnet or Sydney Hobart. Due to the complexity of the sites, the difficulty of the wind patterns, whether you are east, north, west, south of Sicily, and right to the end where last night it took us 45 minutes to finish the race, the last 1.5 miles.
For being first overall in IRC.
We are very experienced, we race together for several years, so the motivation is intact from the first minute to the last. But it's also keeping discipline, not to make mistake. It's like in any sport, you can be the best, but any mistake and you pay. That's why I always say, sailing is a great sport because it teaches you never to be arrogant.
In total, 57 yachts complete the race, with 66 forced to retire. The last boat in is Tattoo, who finishes in just under 9 days. In a race as challenging as this year's edition, trophies are richly deserved at the event's prize giving. Such is its importance in the sport of sailing and in the fabric of Maltese life, that its future is in no doubt.
This race is obviously a major contributor to put Malta on the map. After all these years, it has become part and parcel of the calendar. I only hope that it will stay like that and, if possible, even be enlarged and become more prominent.
When victory means so much to the winners, this Middle Sea merry-go-round is sure to rotate again.
Today we're very happy because we made such a great race as a team, being consistent, precise in what we were doing, and that was a very good feeling. In the end, you are rewarded of this by an overall win, which is absolutely great, which I think the team deserves, and we're very happy to accomplish this together. But the first great feeling, obviously, is when you manage to race well and to have a good feeling, a strong feeling out of a difficult race such as Rolex Middle Sea race.
Next time on The Spirit of Yachting, Sail GP is back, and the racing has never been closer.
The Spirit of Yachting is the name of that series, but great stuff. Bravo Zulu to Rolex, to the Royal Malta, but also to that Teasing Machine crowd. I want to meet that owner. He just looks like a terrific guy. So does the tactician. And if McIrvin says that if Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin says he's a great guy, he must be. And by all accounts, it sure looks like he is. Nice stuff. Wow, Stingray saying, what a beautiful lifestyle these owners and sailors enjoy. You like that theater, that huge theater where they do the prize giving? Everybody's in there. And great stuff. Who's coming to Alicante? Monica Diaz wants to know for the start of the ocean race. Mark Husted is saying, Pindo, it's 49 days to the ocean race. The new format is great. Yeah, we'll explain that. We got more than a month. We want to get through. We want to get through, first of all, the Sydney to Hobart and the holidays, the rest of the holidays, and then we'll get into the start next month of the Ocean Race, formerly the Volvo, formerly the Whitbread, yada, yada. Some pretty clever comments from back and forth, David James and Jonathan Frank, about how America's Cup could learn some things from Rolex in that video presentation. Fabulous stuff. Did you like that comment? Did you like the comment? He said, one of the, what makes sailing great, I have to go back and I'm not going to write it down. What makes sailing a great sport is that it teaches you always to be humble, or never to be arrogant, I think is the way he put it. Never to be arrogant. We should make a list of these things. Sailing is a great sport because we go back and we see what Ebru says, we see what the gentleman said in that video, and all the rest of you say, what makes our sport great? That's what World Sailing should be doing. That's what U.S. Sailing and your other national authorities should be doing. It's what we should be doing on this show. We do it, but not so formally. What makes our sport great is, and we do a video, just that. Maybe we get John Emmett to do a video. All of the things that make our sport great, and run it. Run it. That'll help promote the sport. Not that we really care about promoting the sport per se, but we do, of course. What makes our sport great is that it teaches you never to get arrogant or to be arrogant. If you want arrogance, watch soccer. The only thing, Meg played soccer. We talked about this. You all have grown up with it. We didn't so much here because we got the other big four sports. I love to watch soccer. I know the American commentators here say, oh, there's no action, there's no scoring. I don't like your offside rule, frankly, as a hockey player. I understand it. I get it. I understand why it's there. But the flopping, the flipping and flopping and flapping, I mean, the flopping is just, we're starting to see it in the NBA here, the basketball here in this country. It's terrible. But what makes our sport great is we don't have any flopping or precious little of it, and it teaches one never to be arrogant. Now, that's something I'd never heard or really even thought. I mean, it keeps us humble because it's, things can change. But it teaches us to be aware of our surroundings. It teaches us to get our head out of our, some people say cruder things than get our head out of the cockpit. Buddy Melgus always says, and look around. Be situationally aware. And, things change. Shiza happens, and you can have a strategy, but then your tactics are going to be dictated by where the rest of the fleet is, what's going on with the weather, what's ever changing. It's the holiday time. We can talk about this stuff. What other comments? FIFA is corrupt as fudge. J. Frederick Bland is saying, yeah, well, a lot of these big sports organizations are too. Get Kimball Livingston to do the video. Good idea. We can get Kimball to write the script and text. Read the history of Malta and the siege before you go. Puts everything, yeah, it does. Fritz Mueller. There's some good Maltese friends there, some good Maltese foes as well. What makes the sport great, Stingray is saying, is in part because it celebrates the wind. Yes, true. Understanding what it requires to be a top sailor is probably far more and very different from what most people think. John Emmett, Coach Emmett, is certainly right in that respect. Well, we're an hour and 50 minutes, or sorry, not an hour, 50 minutes into this show. And let's get to the America's Cup because we got a bit of an interesting update. And I'm going to ask you and follow this with Corrector Crutonic because it's an interesting development. I have a strong feeling, but before we get to that, a rules-related development. Here's the schedule that came out this week for the match. And I put it on my Facebook page or the Sailing Illustrated Facebook page, or maybe both, and a lot of you commented and said, what? 2 weekends? Starting on a Saturday and ending potentially the following, in fact, even the following Saturday, because it is first to win 7. It's best of 13. Racing in the Americas, this is from their release, from ACE, America's Cup Events Limited. Racing in the America's Cup match itself, which will be a best of 13, first to 7 format, will commence on Saturday, the 12th of October, with 2 races scheduled, as you in the Commonwealth would say, followed by a further 2 races on Sunday, 13th October. Racing will then pause for 2 days. However, at the discretion of the regatta director and after consultation with both the defender and challenger, And that's Ian Murray, of course, the regatta director. Again, terrific guy that he is. And depending on conditions, both of these days could be used to complete 2 races a day. The schedule as it stands without the use of the Monday or Tuesday would recommence on Wednesday, the 16th of October for 1 race in the match, followed by the Women's America's Cup Regatta Final. And they detailed that. They haven't said anything about the youth. I don't know if the youth has gone away, the Youth America's Cup. Does anyone know what's happened to the Youth America's Cup? But apparently the women's is still on. Now, I'm going to run this quote from Grant Dalton. Speaking about the format announced, Grant Dalton, CEO of America's Cup Events Limited, commented, quote, "We are excited to confirm the dates determining the match racing period, and our huge thanks go to the captain, Maritimo. I think it's Maritimo, isn't it? Not Maritimo. I think it's Maritimo, but I haven't lived in Spain too many years. And the Port of Barcelona Authority, who have been so proactive and accommodative through the process. This is a significant event to plan for, with safety concerns at the top of the list for both spectators and competitors. I think the result is going to be something pretty spectacular," Daltz is saying, with racing taking place in front of the beach along the coast from the main port entrance right along the coast, past the Porto Olimpico, and out further east, offering a fantastic viewing opportunity for the public to see these remarkable boats at full pace. Ed Worley is saying, yada, yada. Monica Diaz, isn't it Maritimo? You're in Spain. You're a Spanish speaker, fluent, native. Isn't it? Or is it Maritimo? Capitan, Maritimo, or Maritimo. What difference? Yada, yada. Stingray, with these dates, the CSS conditions will be far different from the match conditions. It could favor the defender who gets to design only for late. Yes, the defender is always advantaged in that capacity. Graham Sweeney and a lot of others who you had about this schedule said it was bloody crew tonic. Crew bloody tonic. I like that. How do you make a Maltese cross Pindar? Just say, poke him in the eye. I don't know what you all think, but I'll tell you what I think is that, and again, in this quote, it confirms once again that Grant Dalton is the CEO of America's Cup Events. So you got the same guy who's CEO, and explicitly so. I mean, there's always behind the scenes, Russell, you think he ran the event here and the team. Not really. He had other lieutenants, including me, and when I ran the events in San Diego, Dennis didn't run the events. Sure, I consulted him, but I consulted Bill Koch. We consulted the challengers, the Challenger Record Committee, whatever they were called then. But when Grant Dalton is explicitly the CEO of the event and the CEO of the team, that is, you talk about crew bloody tonic. That is crew tonic. That is wrong. And he should step down from one post to the other, at least in title and really in practical terms. You can't have the CEO of one of the teams being the CEO of the event. And I've gone back, racked my brain, looked back through the history, at least my history of the Cup, which goes back to 1980. And I can't think of a time when a person was both the CEO, titular or otherwise, of both the event and one of the teams. Never. And I think it's wrong, and I think it's plain wrong, and I think we're going to have a lot of problems, again, as a result. And Mr. Dalton, if he's listening, won't take this to heart because he's full-on control and authority problems over the event, and I just think it's wrong. I'm sorry to say it. I don't know if the rest of you agree or not, but they ought to separate church and state. What other comments here? They're talking about Buddy Malgus and what he said about getting your head out of the cockpit. John Emmett, we had two good ILCA Worlds in Barcelona during November. Yep. And Monica Diaz saying I'm right. I think she's talking about my rant about the CEO being the same person, both the team and the event. Unless you're subservient by Hungarian TV, Jonathan Frank is saying. I don't know. I do know. Big time sailing will be as crooked as FIFA. Well, my mother, beloved mother, Janice Davis, I think you're right. It's just, I agree completely. Separation is needed. And no matter who is running this one, it stinks to high heavens, Bill Wingrove is saying. I hope I really do hope this thing is good. I hope it's a good event. I hope the world watches. I have my doubts. I hope it's as exciting as 83 was, or as 87 was, or as 13 was here in San Francisco. That was a pretty exciting event. Hard to believe it's 10 years ago. I think the AC in this format will fall flat on its face, Graham Sweeney says. A sporting challenge has become a Wild West show. Why wouldn't you want Red Bull to run F1? What could go wrong? David James is saying, yeah. Why wouldn't you want the commissioner of the NFL, the National Football League, to also be a team owner and be the, be the coach and CEO and president of one of the teams? Okay, the teams do own the league and they hire the commissioner, but the whole purpose of our professional sports commissioners in this country is to separate the teams from the management of the day-to-day management, the direct control and authority of the fairness of the event. It's crazy. I just can't believe, and if it looks bad to me and us here, those of you who agree, it certainly looks bad to people outside the sport. Okay, I get it. I've always said the America's Cup is king of the mountain. The yacht club holds on to the cup, is at the top of the mountain. The other teams are climbing up. The challengers trying to knock that team off the top of the mountain, or the teams that whoever gets selected. Stingray, Dalton is behaving like Ernesto tried to pull off in some way. Stingray, in fairness to Mr. Bertarelli, to Ernesto, he had a guy, was a schoolboy friend of his named Bonfu. What was his first name? How easy I forget him. B is for, I'll tell you the B is for Bonfu story in a moment. But Ernesto was running the team. And this guy, Michel Bonfu was his name. And another guy who was his deputy, Michel Hodara, thank you, Stingray, he was the deputy. They ran the event. And I argued with them and dealt with them. I didn't have to deal with Ernesto. We did if we came together, and we were the challenger of record, and I was representing Larry and our team. But they ran the event. Sure, they went to Ernesto and, what do you think? And, especially in 2010 during the Trimaran and Catamaran Cup, the race committee, which was ostensibly the race committee of the SNG, Société Nautique Genève, was taking direction. In fact, satellite phone connection to Ernesto and his team and Ernesto's lawyer. But still, the event was run, the titular head and more was Michel Bonfu and Michel Hodara. And there was separation. There really was separation, just like there was here. Yeah, Russell and Larry played a role, but it was different. I see that Hodara is working again for Alinghi this time. Yes, I think he is. He's doing some other big-time special event stuff. Luca Craig down in Auckland is saying, I just want the AC back in NZ, so ETNZ need to win so some money can be recuperated from last time. I'm telling you, Luca Craig, they've already done a deal with Barcelona, that Barcelona has the first right of negotiation, if not the first right of refusal. And you will never see the cup back in Auckland until RNZ loses it. A new team is formed that is Auckland-centric, that is New Zealand-centric, and brings it back and keeps it there. This is a disaster for New Zealand. It's wrong. It should have never been let out of the country. And I think they will lose. I think ETNZ is going to lose. And if they do win, it's not going back to Auckland, Luca. I'm sorry, it won't. They'll shop, even if Barcelona falls flat, after this one, they'll shop it again. You watch. You watch. Unless somebody else gets control of that team in the meantime. And look at what happened to Golden Gate Yacht Club. I was there last night with Norbert Byron. He was at the black tie dinner. He's a member of this group. And the general manager and the Commodore was decorating. The lady Commodore wasn't at the event, but she was decorating the club. And they're all saying, the cup's behind us. When they went to Bermuda, we all lost interest. Even Norbert now has sort of lost interest. He's following SailGP. What other comments here? They're all rolling in, as you can see. I cannot see how he can compartmentalize all this responsibility. He can, of course not. Jonathan Frank is smart Renaissance man that he is. It would be pleasant if someone would win the A Cup and turn it back into monohulls in a decent venue. It is becoming anyone but ETNZ. Okay, enough of the Cup. But I do have a couple more things. Yeah, I agree, Tom. I have a dream. Well, I hope you're right, Luca. I hope you're right. But we'll see. And now I've got a video that Quantum Racing American Magic QRAM. It sounds somehow Islamic, QRAM. Have just issued. It's the first video, first press release, first any publicity that I've seen with Slingers, with Tom Slingsby. And it's one of these kind of crutonic videos. It's day, I think, was it 18 or day 19 of their training in Pensacola on their boat. And Tom Slingsby takes us through it. Have a look.
It's a long day. The breeze was a little lighter than we were expecting. We were sort of hoping that it would have sort of 10 to 12 knots for the whole day, but unfortunately it was probably sub 10 pretty much the whole day for us. Anywhere between sort of 6 and 10 maybe.
Would the newer, larger main have been a better choice for today, you think?
It would have been, yeah. We decided to go with the smaller. When we first hit the water, we had sort of 15, 16 knots out there, and we went with the smaller one, main. But we kept umming and ahhing whether to go in and get the other one, but in the end we just stuck with the small main, but for sure the big one would have been better.
Okay. Today looked a little bit different in that there was less sailing and more discussions or meetings. What was going on with that?
Yeah, for sure the wind was light, and we were just discussing how we're sailing the boat. We were fixing a few little things on the boat at time, and but for sure we probably weren't sailing as much as the other days, but I'm not sure why that was. It was just spent more time discussing it and felt like we were kind of waiting for the wind to fill in, and so we were in no rush, and but the wind never really filled in.
Okay. Were there any breakages today?
We had a small issue, a hydraulic issue, but that sort of held us up for a few minutes, and then we're all clear.
Okay. Who was trimming what on the boat today?
Today, I think main trim was done by Lucas Calabresi. Flight control was done between Andrew Campbell and Michael Menninger, and Goody and I were steering.
Okay. Are there crew members that are cross-training to learn additional positions?
Yeah, we do have sailors learning different roles. I guess you've got Lucas Calabresi, Mike Menninger, Riley Gibbs. They're sort of learning a bit of everything, flight control and also the main setup. Riley's also doing a bit of steering. Dan Morris has been doing a bit of main sheet, sail trim. Yeah, so for sure we're trying to get everyone a bit well versed in everything.
Okay. And a couple of the regulars were absent today. Was that part of cycling new people into those positions?
Yeah, it's just cycling. We're sort of cycling people days on to days off. Same with the cyclists and also with the sailors.
Yeah. What would you say is the hardest part of trying to acclimate yourself to this style of boat?
The hardest part, I guess, is just learning, the crossovers, where the boat can do a foiling manoeuvre and where it can't. What angles the boat likes to sort of come out of manoeuvres at, accelerations. And for me, I guess learning how to take the boat off out of the water. It's a bit different to a catamaran. You don't have the same stability there, and just getting the balance right of sail trim and foil lift and how you get to your takeoff speed as quick as possible.
Okay. We have non-stop sailing days from now until Christmas. What will the team be trying to accomplish in that stint?
It's just really a training block where we don't have too many new things coming online, I don't think. It's mainly just a crew training block. We need to train a lot of people, myself included, and how to sail these boats well. And so when we do get 2 AC40s, we can man both boats with guys who can fly the boat and trim and steer. And so we've got plenty of crew training to go. And so I think you'll see us doing a little bit of that, a lot of manoeuvres, and then you might see us head out offshore as well soon. Plan is to get out in some waves. Probably next week we might look at starting to get into that.
Okay, awesome.
Is he the best sailor in the world? Tom Slingsby. It was a great pleasure to do a cup with him. And yeah, I'm sorry, but it's obviously these audio, the audio coming off these various AC-37 videos is crutonic. And In fact, here, I can't really hear, I can't, in my little earbud, I can't distinguish the audio coming from Tom from all the, somebody said it sounded like they were in a washing machine or in a can or something. We got to get John Emmett over there to fix their audio for them now that his audio has come so good. Yes, he is one of the best, Ed Worley is saying. He looks good. He looks fit. He looks happy. I hope American Magic Baton Rouge is saying. Baton Cannon in Charleston, normally, South Carolina. I hope AmEdge doesn't think that they had they not capsized, they would have won, and hope they are progressing their design much more than the other teams behind the scenes. I think their problem is, again, I've said it, is sales. I don't know if they're using North sales. All the other teams are, and they're all North, even though they say they don't. They all, share information between the teams. So we'll see. Riley, Mark Husted is saying, is a real gem. I agree. Riley Gibbs. And I think he's going to be great. There was one other interesting comment from Slingers, from Tom and that is that as you look at the other comments coming in, he said that he and Goody, Paul Goodison, were driving, and I assume he means they were driving at the same time, not switching off. Does anybody know? Stingray, do you know? Are all the teams now going to do the Prada two helm situation like they did in the last Cup? Stingray saying, I have faith in Mike Drummond's American Magic's new head of design. Yeah, Drummond, Mike is really good. He is really good. One hears that AM has contracted with North Sales. Okay, Steve. They may have contracted with them, but Quantum Racing that Doug DeVos owns, Quantum Sales. We'll see. Yeah, your audio's been good, John Emmett, and your video is terrific too with your new camera and lens, and/or lens. Okay, well, we'll see. It looks like all these teams are doing dual helms, Ed Worley is saying. Yeah, I think that is right. It certainly sounds right, and it solves a lot of problems. I think it was a smart move by Luna Rossa last time. Stingray saying with the new deck sweepers, yes, everyone looks to be going with dual helm. Okay, now I ask you, we get to this, I think it's a tempest in a teapot, but I'm a little surprised. Richard Gladwell's a little surprised as well how this is working out, and that is this question. I teased it in the show notes at the top of the show, and that is Ineos's mast. Is this a mast, or is it a post or a pole? And Richard, writing in Sail World here in yesterday, Ineos Britannia with their LEQ 12, less than or equal to 12 meters boat, not an AC40. Why can't they call it an AC40? Mallorca, that's where they're training, as you know. Off the water, the rules roundabout picked up pace, Richard writes, as the teams and rules committee try to come to a conclusion as to whether an instrumentation post, quote unquote, constitutes a mast tube and is therefore covered by the rule restricting teams to just one mast tube for their LEQ 12s. Ineos Britannia revealed what looked to be a very tall towing strut, which also bristled with instrumentation devices. There it is. Now, I understand the rule for only having one mast. That's a cost control thing. You don't want the teams going out and trying a whole bunch of different masts on these boats. I mean, you look at rules. Probably rules are stupid. People get around the rules. If the fewer rules you have, which was the beauty of the deed of gift and the old thing, probably the better off the whole event is. And by the way, I'm back on these comments about what's going to happen in the America's Cup. And guys like Husted are right. This is always going to be the pinnacle event in our sport, at least for the rest of my life and probably for the rest of all your lives on here. This is because of the history and tradition and going back to 1851 and yada, yada, and all the characters that have been involved since, all the yachts. It's going to be about design. But it's, the thing that Chris Caswell wrote in Sailing Magazine that I had on the Tuesday show about these being moon rovers, there's some validity to that. But regardless, whatever criticism goes on with the venue or the rules or these boats, it's still going to be the pinnacle event in our sport, which is why I'm going to follow it. I love it. I always will. And if it goes off the beaten path, or the path we all, or a lot of us, think it ought to take, then we criticize it, and if we think it's good, we celebrate it. Like Formula One, it isn't what the rule says, it's what it doesn't say. Good point, Jonathan Frank. Yeah, cost control, David James would say, yeah, it's working, clearly working so well. Gordon Smith saying, it is a towing testing rig. If the Rules Committee bans it, it will take a dive down a rabbit hole of arguments. Worley says, it is not a mast, and when being towed, they are not sailing. This is Crutonic games being played out. Yes, Mozzie Sails. I'm going to get that guy on. Tom, what's his last name? I'm going to get him on the show. I watch his videos. I watched them from the last Cup. He has a great YouTube on this issue. This is potentially a big setback to an already late Ineos campaign, Stingray is saying. Yeah. Split helms makes sense. Husted is saying, why wouldn't one do it? Why wouldn't one do it? But back to this thing. It looks like a lot of you are agreeing with Richard Gladwell, and that is not a mast for the purpose of the rule. I mean, does that look like a mast tube, a D-section mast tube? No, it looks like a post or a pole, an instrumentation pole, or even a towing rig. And Gladwell writes, he says, interestingly, in its draft, let me tell you how this works. So somebody has asked a question of the Rules Committee, which is Stan Hunting, I can't remember the other people on it. And this is the technical committee. And the way it works, and has worked for a long time in the Cup, somebody can ask a question, and they're anonymous. You don't know who's asked the question. It could be the team itself has asked the question, or it could be somebody who is trying to figure out whether this is legal so they can do it, or they're trying to get it outlawed so that Ineos doesn't gain some kind of a perceived advantage. Then, after that question is asked, every one of the teams gets to input, and they all opine. They all send in their responses, which are in fact, you can all read them. They're on the America's Cup Rules website. And they all read them. And then I think I may be foreshortening this a bit. And then the Rules Committee drafts a draft ruling. And then the other teams can opine on that draft ruling. And what it looks like is happening is all the teams, no surprise, are ganging up on Ineos, which, maybe has come up with a clever idea. In the meantime, everybody seems to be trying to beat them down. And Gladwell writes, interestingly, in its draft interpretation, the Rules Committee opined that to fall within the principal spar requirement contained in the definition of a mast tube, quote, the towing post need only resemble one or more aspects of either the form or function of a mast tube, unquote. Need only resemble one aspect of either the form or function. That's pretty broad. Gladwell writes, it is very hard to see how a reasonable argument could be sustained that a round metal tube, a few meters long, with instruments strapped onto it, could be construed as the principal spar on a yacht which normally uses a D-section carbon mast with double sail tracks down the aft edge to hoist a double-skin mainsail. Our Fozy, longtime friend Richard Gladwell, with whom we don't always see eye to eye, but I, in this case, see eye to eye. Unter vier Augen, as the Germans would say, not quite the same meaning, but under four eyes. Totally agree with Richard. This is not a mast within the meaning of the rule. This is not something to try to break the rule about having multiple masts so they can test mast bend and mast construction. This is a towing bit. This is an instrumentation device. It is not a mast. It's a pole. It's a post. Isn't it? Tell me if I'm wrong. What do you think here? Ed Worley, it is not a mast. This is Crutonic games being played out. And, of course, all the other teams are going through and say, oh, yeah, it's a mast. It's violating. It's breaking the rule. Cost control is, yeah, we covered that. Tom Morris. Thank you, John Emmett. Tom, do you know Tom Morris? Put a note, if you do, whoever knows Tom Morris, I mean, I'll ping him online. He knows, I know he watches our show from time to time, and I do watch his videos and like them, by the way. Gin pole. Yeah, it's a gin. We got alcohol on the show again. It's a gin pole. Saying, gin pole is actually closer to a sailing mast than what this thing is even, because it's got a rope and it is for pulling stuff up. Saying that ETNZ is trying to control costs in this AC is like saying Barcelona will have strong winds and flat seas. By the way, I didn't articulate Monica Diaz's comments, and she makes a very good point, is that Barcelona, unlike Valencia, is really not in a bay. Valencia isn't quite either in a bay, but it's got that wraparound both to the north and to the south that it's further down the respective coasts. But Valencia has a sea breeze. Barcelona does not have a sea breeze, or at least precious little. And it's at the western end of the Med, with westerlies normally flowing offshore, and only if you get the Shiraz, it's either too windy or too light in Barcelona. It'll be very interesting to see how the racing goes there weather-wise, and Monica Diaz agrees. Back to the comments here. If it was edible, would it be a tube steak? I was told at Sonar for Finding Rocks, Jody Shields. Hi, Jody. Jody woke up. What time is it in Sydney? It's 9:15 down there. On Saturday morning. He's probably been awake since 5. The boy gets up early. Jonathan Frank, the way to get around this is to put a couple of go-go dancers on. It's for pole dancers. That's what Sir Ben should do. I think we should recommend to Sir Ben he get a couple of his crew and put them Speedos on them, and they go out there and be pole dancing and say, "This isn't a mast. This is a go-go pole." It's good to be Friday. It's good to be laughing. It's good to be in the holidays. That's brilliant. Jonathan Frank, Jody Shields. I'm not sure these cues are on the AC. What aren't they? I thought they were on there, Stingray. You can go through there into the reading and into the rules section. I think they're there. Richard is correct. Worley agrees with Richard Gladwell. Just a question for the Fozy. Husted is asking, as much as we love the majestic boats, and I do you think the progression of the pinnacle of technology of our sport isn't going to be on the forefront of the most important race? Yeah, okay. Steve Gruber. Yeah, but these boats are not even the pinnacle of the sport. You could be doing whole different things. That doesn't mean we should be doing it. It's got to be a balance of racing, of crew work, of what is televisable and interesting for the spectators as well as the television audience. It's not just about speed. It's not just about being super high tech. I mean, we have rules against unobtainium, super expensive, difficult to obtain, hence unobtainium. We have those kinds of rules in there. TF, in the standard procedure when someone thinks of something new, well, we were always careful, because if you go out opining, when you get into these rules S fights and everybody gangs up on somebody, it might happen to you in reverse. You have to be somewhat thoughtful and somewhat responsible. In fact, Russell, which is a good instinct of Russell Coutts, his instinct was not to opine on a lot of this stuff and not to get in a fuss about it, because it doesn't make that big a difference. But this obviously does make a difference to Ineos. And I can't believe that these teams are all fighting this, and that the rules committee has come up with this draft opinion that they have. So those who weren't smart enough to figure it out are protesting their ignorance. Yeah, sort of. Yep, ping him. Okay, John, you ping him, and then I'll ping him as well. Agree with you, Tom. It's not a mast. Unfortunately, the rules may mess it up, Stingray is saying. So does it mean, Gordon Smith asks, that any test instrument on foils, et cetera, are parts of the performance? Yeah, I saw Tom. I think Tom Morris made that point in one of his videos. Ben's training the crew into the art of pole dancing. Okay, we covered that. Classic AC behavior. Yeah, it is and it isn't. The ganging up stuff, I haven't, you'd be surprised how relatively little of that there is. I would pay money to not see Ben pole dancing. It was interesting just recently during the TP52 finals, a bunch of them were floating around looking at Alinghi also floating around. Yeah, and by the way, the TP52 Worlds are going to be in Barcelona next year. I read that somewhere this morning. What else? Interview I did with Tom. Okay, Emmett's got an interview with Tom Morris. I'll go look at that. Thank you, John. If you want entertainment, pole dancing. One could take a 12-meter for a Friday night race or a J or an IACC. Could you take one of no, you couldn't. Monstrosities. Could you take one of these monstrosities on a beer can only with 40 short? Well, that's the problem. If you want to cut costs, there's what you do. And I've made this argument before. We were always talking about how to cut costs in the Cup. tell teams like football, our gridiron American football teams do, and baseball teams and pro and particularly college teams. They say you can only have X many coaches, only X many staff, only X many people in the gym helping to run a practice at one time. They limit that. And if you limit the shore teams on these boats, it would dramatically cut down what was going on. So most of you, it sounds like, agree with Gladwell. I certainly do. How many Fozy Arvaje is asking are planning to go to Barcelona? I would be more than happy to make a group or saying. Okay, most of you think it's Crutonic. Most of you think it is Crutonic. I certainly do. Okay, now this is a Tom. I didn't run the Tom Tangential stuff, the slides with this and the music, because it's really not even tangential. This is pretty interesting stuff. I ran across this video. I always do a big YouTube search, both generally and also all the sites. I've subscribed to over 100 sites. Not all of them are sailing, but to a bunch of them to see what their latest videos are in preparing the show. And I came across this video I'm about to show you in Maryland, near Bethesda, Maryland, those of you who know where that is. And this is the David Taylor ship model basin, which we've all probably heard about if you've been in the design business or in the naval architecture business or on one of these America's Cup teams, because it's a huge, long, as you can see, towing tank that before towing, towing is now illegal in the Cup, but in the days before it was, a lot of people booked this tank, and there are, others around the world. And this is in Carter Rock, Maryland, as I said, near Bethesda. Now, this building I did not know about, and it's been around for a while, and it just got rehabbed, 7, 8 years ago, and that's the building in the foreground. You can see the David Taylor basin behind it. Well, this building is the Navy's indoor ocean. The U.S. Navy's Maneuvering and Seakeeping Basin, or MASC, is a 240-foot wide, 360 feet long. It's bigger than a football field, American football, and holds, even your soccer pitches, and holds over 12 million gallons of water. Its mission is to test ship designs and ocean wave patterns at the Naval Surface Warfare Center, Carter Rock Division, located in Maryland. So I've got a video that I found on YouTube this morning, came across, and it's called Inside the Navy's Indoor Ocean. I'm not going to run the whole thing because it's about 20, 25 minutes long, but I commend it to you. It's fascinating. Have a look.
I'm here at the Navy's Indoor Ocean at Carter Rock. This is the biggest wave pool in the world, and they can make all kinds of different waves so they can test, scale ships, and make them better before they actually go out on the open ocean. I came in and I'd seen some pictures, but I just walked in here and it's insane. Because they say indoor ocean, but it's exactly what it is. The water even looks ocean colored. It doesn't look like a swimming pool. This looks like an ocean. It looks like a test facility. It is huge.
It is 360 feet long in this dimension, 240 feet long in that dimension. It's 20 feet deep. Just about the size of a football field out there. The dome above us was the largest freestanding dome for a while.
Largest freestanding dome in the world?
Yep.
What?
In this pool, they can make waves of all shapes and sizes using huge paddles that line 2 walls of the pool.
We have 216 individual wave makers. We can make waves from negative 45 degrees up to 135 degrees, which is kind of coming right back at it.
We are now behind the big paddles that make the waves. These 216 paddles are programmed to move in incredibly well choreographed ways so that they can produce reproducible, perfect size, perfect frequency waves that go across the entire pool.
You can see these air bellows that are what's making the angular motion. That vertical piece is the force transducer. The other force transducer is right up on the top.
There are lots of wave pools in the world, but what makes this one different is control. You can create waves of a specific amplitude and frequency and do so repeatedly.
Okay, so you get the idea. It's a longish video, and I commend it to you. It's what's it called? can't read my own graphics. Veritasium, I think, is the name of the YouTube channel. Veritasium. It's got over 13 million subscribers. It's sponsored by Brilliant. Some of you know what that company is. But yeah, how did the Zoom wall class get built? Jeff Ogle is asking. And it's just to me at least, it was a fascinating video. And you all know about waves, and it's a very interesting thing. We all are affected by waves, of course, in our sport, and I found the whole thing interesting. I commend it to you. Veritasium on their YouTube channel, and lots of comments. David James, the video is very cool. They can make swells and wind waves and standing waves and rogue waves. I don't know if they can make rogue waves. I think that was one of the things in the video, David, that they said they couldn't make. Actually, the video talks about tank testing the Zoom wall. Does it, David? Okay, he's watched it. Not surprising. David James, the intelligent boy that he is, went to Stanford. He's a lawyer, smart boy. Gordon Smith, there is a profound problem with scale testing in water tanks. The viscosity of the water is identical, but the nature of the waves are not very well scaled to the relative size of the models being tested. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Baton Rouge maybe wins the day. Surf's up! Julie, Aaron, hi, Julie. That's what simulators are for. Well, it does play, they use it, and apparently to some good advantage. They wouldn't have spent all that money. I didn't know it existed, frankly. Probably a lot of you did. Stingray, did you know that existed? Interesting stuff. I commend the video to you. Okay, that gets us to the D block, thankfully. And we'll wrap this one up. We're an hour and 27 minutes in. Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, thank you. We've got some background on this gentleman, which I'll run in maybe next Tuesday's show sometime over the holidays. The world's most interesting man. And we only have one. This thanks to you, Ed Worley. Thank you for sending this in. I thought it was apropos of what we all do. And the guy gets the bottle. You have no new messages. I don't know why I thought that was so funny, but I did. And I do. Hey. Goodness me. Easily entertained, I guess, today. Yeah, 12-meter merit. Yeah, well, the tank testing's come a long ways because the computers, and they can validate the tools back and forth between the tank and the computers and so on. Steve Gruber is saying, that's what computers, yeah, okay, he's saying, well, that's what computers are for. There have been many failed yacht designs because of failed computer scaling from the tank. Yes, tank test tank. Hoping that Julia is managing to enjoy the tank testing discussion. Get better soon, Gordon Smith. Thank you, Gordon, for that. Southampton Solent does some great. Yes, indeed, they do. The Southampton tank. And on. Thanks, Ed Worley, for sending that one in. And I've got a bunch of others that are teed up, and I just simply didn't have the time to stick them in there this morning. Before we got on the air today, I'm glad we're doing this at 1 o'clock Pacific year-round. You figure it out in your local time zone. It's a lot easier for me to get us on the air when I have that extra hour. Like, follow, or share. Julia, if she were here, would say that. Comments, of course, are welcome too, even replay. And I hope come next Tuesday, Julia will be sitting there in her chair. Please support us on Patreon. Give us a few bucks so we can pay the heat and the internet bill. And I hope you like this sharing between YouTube and Facebook. And we're going to maybe do it on not Instagram, on LinkedIn in due course. I've just been approved to share it there. And, I'm not sure it helps a lot with the views, but some of you prefer one platform over the other. So that this Restream.io, as John Emmett knows, is not cheap. And I pay the bill because I think you all like for us to be able to stream to more than one platform at the same time. Time of show is okay in Villamora, but in Spain, John Emmett is saying. Replying to Gordon Smith, asked Ted Turner what he thought about hydrodynamic designers. Yeah, Britt Chance designed Mariner, and Ted Turner said, Jesus, Britt, even a turd is tapered at both ends. Steve Gruber's reminding us. Yeah, he did. And Steve, do you remember what Britt's nickname was after that? Britton Chance Jr. Is it Junior? The third, Britton Chance, a superb yacht designer and the late great. And after Ted Turner said, yeah, Jesus spread even a turd is tapered at both ends, because Mariner was not tapered. It was squared off. The underbody was squared off back there. And the boat was terrible. It tested well in the tank. It towed well in the tank and looked very slippery. But after that, Brit Chance was forever known as Shitty Britty. There is a digression. Thanks to everybody who supplied media for us today. Let us use theirs. Thanks for all of your very nice comments. You know, not a single Crutonic comment. Everybody is so good, and we say that, but it's the holiday season, and we're so thankful for all of you. Fritz Mueller, thank you. Whatever he said cannot be posted here. No, yeah, it can't be. My suggestion is just one Facebook page to get all the likes, shares, and comments in one place. Yeah, you said that before, John. I can cut it off my face. I think say do it on the Sailing Illustrated Facebook page. I just have so many more. Well, we've got 3,000, I don't know, the followers, and I've got 6,000, I think, now on my page, plus a bunch more followers. I like the sharing. Fog Machine says, I don't use all the platforms, and if this wasn't on YouTube, I wouldn't be here. A lot of people don't like Facebook, increasingly so, because of some of the stuff that some of the shiza that Mr. Zuckerberg has pulled of late. One of the best quotes in AC history. Okay, well, maybe I'll do that. Yes, Sailing Illustrated is the most watched. Yeah, it is on here. I think that's right. So maybe what I'll do is stop streaming it on my personal page and build up Sailing Illustrated and start putting more stuff over there, like incidental day-to-day postings about sailing. Maybe put that all over there and put non-sailing stuff over on my own page. I keep saying I'm going to do that. Fun and informative as usual. Thank you. See you soon, Julia. We certainly hope we see Julia soon. We hope you all have a great weekend wherever in the world you are. Some of you have already started your weekend. And it says, see you on Friday. Obviously, I forgot. My graphics department screwed that up. See you on Tuesday. In the meantime, sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao for now.